Too often we talk about racism and fascism and anti-racism and anti-fascism as if they're completely separate things. But George Wallace pulled them together, and so has Donald Trump. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. It's Harriet in New York City. Hey, Harriet, what's on your mind today?
Yes. Hello, Tom. I'd like to know what you think will be the fate of the African Americans in this country, given the rise of what seems to me to be fascism, because that turned ultimately into Nazism. We are disproportionately affected by this virus, and that's being, I could see that being manipulated in many, many ways, and there is a kind of consciousness in this country where whites could turn to the right, and we could end up in a situation quite like that of Germany.
Yes, you could be the Jews essentially of the 1930s
Yes.
and 1940s Germany. This is where I think it's really important that we all realize that at this level of conversation, Harriet, and I think you've touched on the most important piece of the whole thing, that we're all in this together, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of class, regardless of anything. And it's one of the things that concerns me is I'm seeing it here in Portland, for example, being played out, where we started out protesting the death of George Floyd and police brutality against black people. Then Trump sends his fascist cops in, and the nature of the protest shifts somewhat to not just be about killing black people, but also to be an open defiance of fascism. And then there's pushback coming from some folks in the black community saying, but wait a minute, this is supposed to be about black people being killed by police. And then you've got some white people going, but, yeah, and that's a huge issue, and we're all upset about fascism. And you just knit the two together perfectly, Harriet. I mean, if fascism takes over this country in a full and complete way, it's going to be George Wallace-style fascism. It's going to be fascism that puts black and brown people right in the middle of the bullseye. They are not separate issues. And it just makes me crazy when people try to separate these. And anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's a very real concern. I've been thinking about genocide in relationship to this country for a very long time. I never thought that I might see it materialize, but I'm very conscious of the nature of the human being in the office at the moment, and also the underlying degree of racism that's existed in this country from its inception, not only for African Americans, but for Native Americans and anything that really is other than a notion of American Aryanism.
Yeah, and we have to remember that this country was literally birthed in genocide, and this was,
Yes.
this preceded slavery, the murder of African Americans, or excuse me, of Native Americans, and
That's right.
Just a systematic, multi-century. I mean, this was over a 4-century period, of extermination. Right up until the 1970s. You had state governments in the United States sterilizing Native American women.
That's right.
And of course, this was done to African Americans too, to a smaller extent. But this is part of the DNA of this country. And anybody who thinks that it can't happen here is living in la la land.